Okay, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're exploring something I like to call the bankruptcy black hole. It's a fascinating and honestly kind of terrifying look at exactly what happens to your precious data when a tech platform completely collapses. We spend our entire lives building these massive digital footprints, trusting that they'll just always be there for us. But the reality of what actually goes down when the money dries up, it's a completely different story.
Picture this. It's 2:13 in the morning. You're hitting refresh on that niche forum you've been a part of forever. But instead of seeing 15 years of inside jokes, connections, and memories, you get a dead link. No farewell banner, no hey, download your stuff notice, just a cold server error. Boom. In that single instant, you realize a decade and a half of your life is suddenly trapped in frozen infrastructure.
So where exactly does your digital life go to die? When a site just disappears, our first instinct is usually, oh, they got hacked, or maybe there was a massive hardware failure. But as our source material reveals, the reality is way colder. It's actually a legally mandated execution. And there is this brutal, heartbreaking disconnect between how we view our data and how a bankruptcy court views it. To you and me, that data is an irreplaceable legacy. It's family photos, independent journalism, personal writing. But to a Chapter 7 bankruptcy trustee, they literally just see collateral. To them, your memories are nothing but a legal liability measured strictly in dollars per terabyte. Their one and only job is to squeeze every cent out of the physical hardware to pay back creditors.
Now, here's where it gets really twisted. And it's absolutely crucial to understand how privacy laws actually seal our data's fate. You'd think a liquidator could just sell the servers with the data still intact, right? Nope. Because of privacy laws like GDPR, liquidators legally cannot sell servers packed with private info to some random third party. For the liquidator, this data is literally just in the way. So they go with a swift, clinical solution, a complete wipe command. 15 years of human expression are instantly reduced to unallocated junk data, all just so they can auction off a bare metal chassis. When a company goes under, digital forensic investigators enter what they call the race against the wipe. It's a literal countdown. Hour 1, the liquidation is ordered, and the cooling bills stop getting paid. Fast forward to week 2, and those servers, which were running incredibly hot, are abruptly powered down. The physical drives actually begin to warp. By month 1, the data is practically unreadable. Investigators are out there fighting rapid physical decay in abandoned, decaying server environments.
Which brings us to a mind-boggling number, 50 million.
That's exactly how many songs from 14 million different artists that MySpace wiped out in 2019. Back then, PR spun it as a migration error. But our source data reveals forensic analysts knew the real truth. It wasn't some glitch. It was straight-up operational neglect driven by financial strain. Their infrastructure was in a managed decline, drives were failing left and right, and backups? They just let them expire. It's a cultural catastrophe of unimaginable scale. But thankfully, there are specialists who dive into this wreckage. When a digital forensic team hits a bankruptcy site, they follow a super strict salvage protocol. First off, they don't just boot up the server. That would instantly alter the metadata. Instead, they deploy hardware write blockers to clone the drives bit for bit, stopping any automated destruction scripts dead in their tracks. Then they scan the raw binary using hardcore tools like Encase or Getaback. Finally, the slow, grueling work begins, carving out the hidden files. So how do they actually find a file if the drive looks completely empty? They hunt for magic numbers. These are unique hex signatures buried deep within the raw binary data. Think of them as secret markers that reveal exactly where a specific file format, like a JPEG or a PDF, begins and ends. Specialists use these signatures to resurrect your documents straight out of a sea of unallocated junk data. And they have to piece all this together in what's known as the slack space. Basically, these are the microscopic, unused gaps left between files on a hard drive. Investigators painstakingly reassemble fragmented data pieces from these tiny gaps. It is literally like trying to rebuild a submerged, ruined city while the ocean floor collapses right underneath you. But hey, this isn't just about rescuing vintage photos. This high-stakes cloud complication skill is absolutely vital for busting corporate fraud. Forensic experts are in massive demand to freeze AWS or Azure snapshots right before a cloud deletion window slams shut. In one crazy case from our sources, a 9-hour audit proved executives were sneaking into shuttered systems to illegally scrub servers and hide their tracks. They wiped the files, but the forensic footprint survived, and the court actually denied their bankruptcy discharge because of it.
There is, however, a much darker side to this black hole. It really boils down to this one chilling reality. Modern SSDs and flash storage are the enemies of history. Let's unpack exactly why that is. See, modern tech practically guarantees what investigators call forensic silence. First, SSD trim commands don't just hide your data, they physically dissipate the electrical charges. It's literally gone from the physical universe. Second, if they use the rigorous NIST wipe protocol, it overwrites the drive with 7 passes of alternating bits. And finally, in the cloud era, if a bankrupt company shuts down its centralized authentication keys, your encrypted backups might still exist physically, but they instantly turn into mathematically sealed, impenetrable tombs forever.
The real tragedy of this forensic silence, though, is the staggering human cost. Consider the platform Friends United. When they went belly up in 2016, there was no export option offered at all. The platform just vanished. Instantly, decades of irreplaceable adoption records, personal writing, and family histories were wiped out without warning. One user even lost the absolute only personal writing her late mother had ever produced.
And here's the hard truth we really need to face. The modern internet, especially the platforms we built in the 2000s and 2010s, was never, ever designed to remember. There is zero long-term archival strategy. The internet was built strictly to monetize engagement. That's it. Storage costs money, and preserving data just slows down a liquidation process. So the second the profit stops, your digital memory flips from being a valuable asset to a massive legal and financial liability.
But we aren't completely helpless here. There is a massive opportunity for preservation, and it's quantified by the number 38 million.
Back in 2009, when WIHO announced they were pulling the plug on GeoCities, this rogue group of volunteer, unofficial archivists, known as the Archive Team, sprang into action. They built distributed crawlers and managed to save 38 million pages just moments before the final deletion deadline. They essentially rushed in and rescued an entire wing of the digital library, while the rest of the building burned to the ground.
So what does this all mean for us? How do you make sure you aren't just one bad board meeting away from digital extinction? You've got to defend your digital legacy. Start treating your data like the valuable asset it truly is. Keep localized backups. Use personal archival tools. Because if there's one golden, unbreakable rule in the digital age, it's this. If you do not own the hardware, you do not own the data.
The internet forgets quietly, and, it forgets constantly. Will you let your history become part of the silence? That's the question I want to leave you with for this explainer. If you found this breakdown valuable, make sure to hit subscribe. We've got a wild analysis coming up next on tracking hidden crypto wallets in bankruptcy estates, so you will not want to miss that. Until then, get to work backing up your digital legacy today.